Tech Tales 117. Tech Tales is a playlist on my channel where I tell stories about actual billable work that I do for my real world clients during season 1 from episode 1 through 100. I was reading from time slips and describing the work that I was done during season 2, which started with episode 101. It's not quite as often, and in season 1 it was almost every day. Season 2, it's not quite as often, because I'm including pictures and videos and it takes a little more work to put them together. So this is number 117 about a mirror drive failure. Now this is the same client that I talked about in episode 115 where the power went out because of a power line problem and we used generators to get the servers running. This was a few days after that, where they called me saying the server's making a noise. And they had the hesitancy to their voice saying, it sounds like birds chirping. And I could hear it over the cell phone, over my cell phone. And so I went right out there and here's what I found. I'm going to start playing this here. This is when I was walking into the office and I had my camera running.
Oh my gosh, it's this clock radio.
You can see there on the clock radio, it has the word Avery right on the bottom. Let's see, can I back up there? Yeah, let's go there.
Oh my gosh.
There, you can see the word Avery on the bottom of the clock radio. It's actually a sleep noise, a white noise, I guess you might say.
It's this clock radio.
Now, she's telling me right here that the girls did say next door that they're having trouble with the network, and I didn't notice what my camera was pointing to right here. Do you see what's wrong?
Across the way that they're having problems with the network.
So I went across to the other building, and there was just 3 people reporting problems with the network, and they accessed the network with mapped drive letters for W and X. There's also a U and a V, but those all go to the same volume on this computer that you see labeled on the top of this. Let's see, let me point to it here. Right up on the top here where it says file server. And then we got this message here saying hard drive 1 fault. And I didn't notice that until after I went next door and checked on their computers. Now, when I checked on their computers, I found that one of them was set on public network instead of private network. So I changed that. And the other 2 computers had something else, not quite right. But no matter what I changed on those computers and restarting them, I couldn't get the drive letters back. It was only 3 people reporting a problem. So at that point, I didn't suspect that we had a bigger problem. But I decided, okay, I'm going to go back and look at the servers and see what's going on there. And that's when I found, whoa, we got a more serious problem. And I saw this. Now I don't have audio playing, so I'm narrating now through this. So and I got a blinking drive. Now I want to pause it here and explain that this server has a boot drive and a data drive. The boot drive is 146 gigabytes. You can see right there marked on this one. And the data drive is 1 terabyte. Now, in the past, we had RAID level 5 for the data drive and mirrored drives for the boot drive. And it's been a long time, many years, since I installed these servers. And these servers have mirrored boot drive and a mirrored data drive, not RAID 5. But I wasn't thinking of that when I walked in here. The drive that's missing, the volume that's missing is the 1 terabyte from the workstations. And that is drive D on this computer. Drive C is the boot drive. Now this drive right here that's blinking is part of the boot drive. It's 146 gigabytes. It's not the data drive. It took a little while before I realized this discrepancy, and frankly, there's still something here I don't quite understand about this. And for those of you who follow my channel and know that we kind of got this running joke now about, does this guy know what he's doing? He seems confused. I think that kind of applies to this. So I'm going to show you this, and it's a little bit of a head scratcher, but I got the thing up and running, so I wound up walking away with it with this curious question not answered. So we got that blinking drive. I'm going to go ahead and continue the video and get to the next piece. That drive that you see pulled out there is a spare. So here I'm pulling this one out. That's a 146 gigabyte. And now in my mind at this point, I'm just assuming that is the problem drive from the 1 terabyte volume. It totally escaped me that drive was a 146 gigabyte. So here I'm pulling a spare drive out of a spare server. Notice that's a 1 terabyte drive. And I'm putting it in that slot, figuring that it's going to rebuild and everything's going to be fine. But that's not the case because it's a wrong drive. And so we see the lights start coming on at this point in time. I'm thinking we're okay. Now come up here to the screen and we see there's the C drive and the D drive is completely missing. But all the lights for the D drive were fine. So I still to this day don't understand this. And there's going to be another weird thing that comes up. So maybe people who work with these kinds of controllers more than I do might have an explanation for this. I don't know. So that F4 backups, that's an external drive that we do backups and we rotate them and take them off site periodically. And I'm going to go in here to computer management and take a look around, and I'm going into look at file shares. There's the shares, and then here's sessions that are going. Now I've got some things, I've got their usernames blurred out, but this shows you all the people that are currently connected to the file server. Then I go to look at open files, and here I have the names blurred out again, but you can see the drive letter, the D drive. It is the D drive, and the server still thinks those files are open, even though it doesn't even recognize that a D drive exists right now. So going forward, and then, so here we're back at File Explorer, and you see again, there's no D drive here. And then where do I go next? Let's see, I think, do I go, oh, I'm shutting down the computer. I'm going to restart it. And configuring memory, and then we get some startup message. It's a Dell computer. And the function keys in the upper right corner showed up. And then here, Poweredge expandable RAID controller BIOS. It's showing me a Control R to run the configuration utility, and I'm going to let it continue in its startup here. Initializing devices, and then it's going to come up with another message here. It gets up to 100% initializing devices, and it says foreign configuration found on adapters. So that's going to be that spare drive that I put in place. Right now it's a foreign configuration. The RAID controller recognizes that drive has something on it, and indeed it does, because in the past it was in a slot somewhere. I have on occasion, I'll take one of the mirror drives out and put in a new one. Now that drive actually serves as an image backup for me, because I can put it back in later and import the foreign configuration and come back live. So for my boot drive that has my user accounts and so forth, that's a valid way of an image backup. I don't know that I was never taught that. That's just something I figured out on my own. So then here's a press down towards the bottom. I'm not going to move the mouse there because the screen gets a little wonky. Press any key to continue, or C to load the configuration, continue, or F to import the foreign configuration. If I knew that I wanted to use the configuration that's on that drive that I just put in, I could press F, and that's just going to import that foreign configuration and let me start using it. Then we'll continue forward here. Now I think at this point I go into the Control R configuration utility. Oh, here we go. One virtual device found on the host adapter, one virtual drive degraded. I'm still thinking in my mind that this is the D drive that's degraded because that's what the people couldn't access. One virtual drive handled by BIOS. Now here is a weird thing. It's only showing virtual disk 0. Virtual disk 1 is not there, which is the W and X drives, meaning it's not just has a problem, it's gone. It's not there. The tab that I'm on in the upper left corner, you see that blue highlight over VD management. That's virtual disk management. The next tab to the right of it is PD management. That's for physical disk management. And then the next one after that is controller management. And then after that is foreign view. It's kind of hidden under the word source there. What happens when I move the mouse up there now? No, it doesn't disappear. But right up there, it says foreign view. That foreign view menu option only shows if it recognizes that there is a disk inserted that has a foreign configuration on it. On the right-hand side, I'm seeing RAID status degraded. And I think it's around this time that I notice, ooh, that's the boot drive, 136 gigabyte, and it's degraded. So my expectation at that point was that that was RAID level 1. It means a mirrored drive where both drives have identically the same information, and the computer should be able to boot up and I should be able to have a C drive, but it's degraded. There's no indication here of a disk group 1 or a virtual disk 1, and I still don't have an answer for that. Moving forward, you'll see what happens. Then let's see, where do I go to next? So I'm bouncing around there on menu options, and this video is edited a little bit because I had a lot more footage than what I could describe through. And then I'm over on foreign view. See the tab that's highlighted up here is foreign view. So this is showing me, here's the foreign disk. That has a foreign configuration on it. So even though you see the word rebuild there, it's not going to rebuild as long as it thinks that that disk has a valid data on it. It's just different data than what's on disk 00. Now let's move forward. So I come up here and go to foreign config, and then I'm clearing that foreign config so that I can do something different with that disk, because I know what's on it is obsolete. I don't need it, so I'm going to clear it and then ask, are you sure? I answer okay. And then at that point, for physical disk, the second disk for this mirrored RAID level 1 is missing, and that's valid. That's the way it ought to be. Now over here I can see all the disks that are in place. So 00 at the top of this, that is the first drive of the first volume, virtual disk. And there needs to be 2 disks. Now when I showed that first scene where I was taking the disk out, you saw the 2 disks that were 136, 146 gigabyte, whatever. They were in slot 0 and slot 1. I pulled the one out of slot 1 and I inserted a 1 terabyte disk by mistake. Because remember, I had a preconceived notion. The problem is the 1 terabyte volume, because that's where the W and X drives are located. Now this disk that I just cleared the foreign configuration, it's in slot 5. Oh, you know what? I remember now. Yeah, this, I didn't have videos of every step through this. And so with the video editing, okay, I've got part of this answered. What happens, yes, I put the 1 terabyte disk into drive 1, but at some point I realized my error and I took a 139 gigabyte disk and I put it into slot 5. This one is in the ready mode right now. It's ready for me to do something with. So what I'm going to do to it is I'm going to instruct the controller to use that as a hot spare. So I'm going to go down here to make global HS and pause right there. Do you want the global hot spare to give priority to the enclosure in which it resides? Yes, there's no other controllers no other enclosures it can talk to. So I'm answering yes here. And as soon as I tell it that I want it to be a hot spare, the controller knows that it needs that hot spare right now. So it's just immediately going to pair it with that drive that's in the 0 slot, and it's going to start rebuilding. And there it just went straight to rebuild. It doesn't say hot spare. Now notice in slot 4, that one is a hot spare. Before I mistakenly put this 1 terabyte in here, disk 2 and 3 were the drives that were providing the 1 terabyte mirrored volume. So that was where the W and X drives were located, and the drive that was in slot 4 is a hot spare for those two. So, but remember when I was looking at the virtual disk or virtual disk management, we didn't see any representation that these were even present. Then let's move on. LED blinking. Okay, so I'm blinking the drive that's in slot 1, and I just wanted to see, yes, that matches, and it's in the ready state. And what I'm going to do is stop that light from blinking, and then I'm going to remove that drive because I've realized I've got it in the wrong slot. I don't want it there. I'd rather have both of the first virtual disk in slot 0 and slot 1. Now notice there, when I took that out, moments later, that 01 disappeared. You saw it actually disappear on this video. And then moving forward, what do we do next? Then I'm going to go, force offline. I'm highlighting the Fujitsu that's in slot 5 right now. I'm going to force it offline, and I'm going to move it into the right slot. So here's force offline and OK. And then we see the word offline right here. So it's offline, and now that virtual disk 0 is degraded again. And go forward. And I'm going to come down and move that disk from slot 5. You see it's an amber light there. Pull it out of slot 5. I'm going to put it in slot 1. I didn't have to do that. I could have left it in slot 5. I just thought down the road that's going to be another source of confusion. So now we're watching this screen to see when it pops up. And it should pop up in 01 position. And there it is, 01, and it says foreign because remember I stopped it. So now I'm going to come to foreign config and clear that foreign configuration. Answer OK. And then come down to see the physical disk, the second physical disk for this disk group is missing. That was expected. Now come over here to this Fujitsu. I'm on the physical device, physical disk management page right now. And then I think it was the F2 key to bring up these menus. So then over here is the LED blinking. I can turn that off or on. And then down here is make global HS. The black menu options aren't available to me right now. I can't select them. I can only select these white options. So here I come down to make global HS. I can't do them because they're not valid right now for the state of that drive. So do you want global hot spare to give priority to the enclosure in which it resides? Yes. I think no would have worked just the same. And it went straight to rebuild. It doesn't say hot spare like this one down here. It went straight to rebuild because it recognizes that that it's needed right now. Then it is going to start rebuilding. Now here, notice Virtual Disk 0 is here and Virtual Disk 1 is here. Somewhere along the line, and I didn't even notice it at the time, it just appeared. It just came back. And it does not show degraded, even though that is the virtual disk that people could not access. So I'm a little nervous that there may be another problem that has not been detected. I don't know. So now it's rebuilding. I think it took around 20 or 30 minutes to rebuild. Now it's at 96%, and I turned my video on again at this point just to show you the finishing of that. Oh, and this, actually that 96% was a photo. Now here's 98%, and I'm going to let this run through to 100%, and you kind of get a little bit of a feel for how long a percentage point lasts. Now here's a pause. Over here I want to show that this state is showing rebuild right now. Instead of the word that they used, or degraded is what it said previously. Continuing. And down below you can see the physical disk 2 and 3 are online. And so that's done. Virtual Disk 0 and Virtual Disk 1 are in good shape. So that's all I had to present there, and just to show a little bit about dealing with RAID. It's occasionally occurs where one of these drives goes bad and there's that blinking light. Now, one of the things that I was disappointed about when we bought these servers is that although there is an option for controlling the alarm in the RAID controller software, this controller, the documentation also talks about an alarm. The alarms don't work. The audible alarms don't work. And when I researched it further, I discovered that the generation of the controller that's in these servers doesn't have a speaker. It's just not there. So I was disappointed to discover that. So I have to, every time I go in to swap the drives, it has to be part of my routine to look at that LED and see if there's a problem. And always have a hot spare in place. Now, since then, I have gone back and added another 136 whatever gigabyte hot spare for that boot drive. So what happens is, if one of those drives goes bad, it'll automatically bring in that hot spare, and next time I'm in the office, I'll see that warning message blinking on the LED to tell me there's a problem. And then the ideal thing to do is just take out the faulty one and put in a new hot spare. And I shouldn't have to delete a I will have to delete a foreign config because all of those drives have other images on them. Now, how is it that I was able to pull a drive out of one of the other servers and use that as the spare? Well, what we did last time we replaced servers is we need 2 servers. We bought 4. We bought them as used servers, fairly recent model server, but we saved a ton of money by doing that. And this is the way I told them that, you know what, I want extra servers. That way we have extra options for recovering from anything that might happen. So that was that experience. I hope this has been useful. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye.